internet. So today is going to be a little bit of a lot of it different video for you, just letting you know. That is Revelynne. She's awake, she's playing, so you hear her scream, make noise in the background. Yeah, that's you. Yeah, you're letting them know you're here. Yeah, I'm here. She is going to play on the ground. You'll probably hear her randomly screaming. But I'm doing a service dog update today for a couple reasons, because obviously you guys have been asking for it. I've been telling you it's coming. And yesterday we ended up not really recording much at all. It's been a while since we did that. Like, we really barely recorded anything by the end of the night. I think part of that was that I was in a really bad mood yesterday. Just kind of one of those days where there's no reason, you're just in a really negative mindset. And that was probably part of like the issue of not picking up the cameras. I was just being a butthead. So by the end of the night, hopefully, I think you'll have to ask Ryan that I turned my negative mindset around, I hope. But today I'm feeling much happier. So I thought that I would finally do the service dog update for you guys. So I'm gonna give you an update on how Levi is doing being retired, an update on how I've been doing without a service dog, and an update on how Loki is doing in his training. So in case you guys don't know, I know we have a lot of new viewers. Levi is actually my retired service dog. I have PTSD, anxiety, panic attack disorder, OCD, and I used to have depression. I don't really have depression anymore, just kind of randomly comes and goes. I also pretty much always get a question of why do you have PTSD, what happened. In the description box below is a blog post of my life story. If you guys want to know the details on all that, then you can read that blog post, but I'm not going to talk about it in video. The blog post alone is super long, and so you'll understand after reading it why I have not done a video on it. So Levi has been my service dog, I think 6 years, something like that. Well, he'll be 9, so technically this would be the 7th year, but he really only had 5, almost 6 years of actual service with me. And he retired in November, December of 2014, right before Revelynne was born. He's been fully retired for quite some time. He came out of retirement for about 2 weeks when we went off to Colorado and Washington, because they were high trigger situations for me. So I decided to bring him so he was there for alerting purposes and such. And he did really good coming out of retirement. Now, when you retire a service dog, it's usually because they start slowing down. And Levi had started slowing down. He was still up to the job, but he was just getting old. And obviously you want to retire a service dog as soon as they start slowing down, because you don't want them to start having any hip issues and such. So he was fine to still come out for those 2 weeks. He really didn't even act like he hadn't been a service dog. He was perfectly behaved on our entire trip, pretty much. He did really well. Yeah, are you sharing those with us? That's very nice of you. What you got on your face, girl? There you go. Yeah, you say hi. So retirement-wise, Levi's been doing really well up until I would say the last couple months. He finally started seeming to really have issues with not going out. Right in the beginning, of course, he would try to walk out the door with me because he was used to going anywhere that I went. But within a couple months, he stopped even getting up when we started to walk out the door. He was very used to it. But a couple times in the last few months, he's tried to charge his way out the door with me. And you okay? He did start having incontinence issues too, and him just being anxious about not being able to go with us, because we had a few very busy weeks around the holiday time that we weren't able to even be home a ton, and so that took a toll on him. But he's been doing really well. But yeah, his kind of, I guess you could say, regression for retirement was very late onset. Like I said, he's been retired since 2014, November, December, and he just started really showing that he has issues with it the last couple months. But I mean, he's been fine still. We did have to get a crate because it was still an incontinence problem, and he has started to really like his crate. So as for how I have been doing without a service dog, I have felt really good. Besides being in some high trigger situations with like lots of people, I have felt pretty good not having a service dog. And like trips to grocery stores, or even like less crowded shopping malls. Like if you guys know where Woodfield is, every time I go to Woodfield I wish I had Levi. But like smaller shopping malls around here like Yorktown, or just like shopping strips, like that's not a big deal for me at all. So it was definitely an adjustment to getting used to not having a service dog. You know, I went, like I said, 5, maybe almost 6 years with a service dog. I was used to getting barked at in public, being stared at in public. It was just kind of that's just what I was used to. And now I walked into a store and there was no one staring at me and no one barking at me, and it was actually really nice that I could just walk into a store, be a normal person, and just, you know, get my shopping done and not have to worry about, you know, people saying rude comments or having to answer a bazillion questions, things like that. And that is something also that really drives me nuts about when people try to fake a service dog, or they're like, oh, well, I bring my dog in places just because I can't leave them at home. Leave your dogs at home. If you have a pet, leave your dog at home. Be thankful that you don't have some sort of disability that requires a service dog. As much as Levi helped change my life, and I really wouldn't have graduated from high school without him, he was really like the last option that my parents and I came up with to help me. And as much as he really did help so much, I would have rather not needed a service dog. It's a big responsibility, and any time that someone just brings their pet into a store because they just can't leave their furry baby at home, it's just kind of a slap in the face to service dog handlers. Not only because if your dog has issues, you can cause issues for other handlers coming into a store because your dog is not trained as highly as a service dog, but also just the mere fact of not understanding how lucky you are that you don't need a service dog. Hopefully that makes sense. So just keep that in mind if you're ever like, I really want to bring my dog in the store because I just don't want to leave him home. Just think it through. So Levi was a huge blessing and he did a lot to help me, but it was definitely time to retire him. And around the same time, I started to feel like in that transition period, like I was doing really well without a service dog. And so I started to think, you know, maybe I don't need a service dog anymore. Maybe I'm past this part of my life and I just don't have a need for one anymore. And obviously though, in this time period, I was only really going to smaller things. I was still bringing Levi to high trigger situations. I just wasn't bringing him to smaller things like grocery stores and shopping like I mentioned, or just, you know, quick out and about things. Those were the places I wasn't bringing him, but I was still bringing him to high trigger situations. Once he was fully retired, and I, at that same time, had a baby, and so I had a big distraction when I was in even high trigger situations because I had just had a baby, and so I was taking care of her the whole time. And so in my mind I was like, oh, I'm still doing good, you know? I'm doing good. But as time went on and I got more comfortable being a parent and I wasn't as new to it anymore, I did start to notice that I was still having panic attacks, onsets, and anxiety, and a lot of issues PTSD-wise when I was in public situations. So, and now in enters Loki and where he currently is at. So a lot of you guys already know that Ryan is actually allergic to Loki. We did not know that he was allergic to Loki. We got Loki, I think, near the end of the summer, I want to say. And Ryan didn't really bond with Loki around that time at all while he was a puppy, because obviously he was living with my mom who was training him. And so it wasn't really until winter that Ryan started to kind of bond with him too when we were at their house. And so he had long sleeves on. Also in winter, dog dander is suppressed. And so once spring came around though, Ryan was wearing a short sleeve shirt and he was like not wrestling with Loki, but he was like bear hugging him. Soon after, he got like red itchy dots all over his hands. And when we mentioned this, a lot of you guys were like, well, he shouldn't be allergic to Loki if he's not allergic to your dogs. Dog dander actually differs from each type of dog hair. You know, there's hyperallergenic dogs. Levi's hair coat is actually very different from Loki. But also, Ryan is actually allergic to Levi. So he doesn't have the same kind of reaction that he does to Loki, but with Levi, he can't like stick his face in his fur or anything like that, or he will get like super clogged up. And Ryan's also very allergic to cats. So the fact that he is more allergic to Loki is not surprising at all, but it would have been nice if we knew from the beginning. So obviously having Loki live in our house with my husband being allergic to him wasn't a feasible option. I know like some people mentioned, well, he could take Benadryl and he'd be fine. Living on Benadryl the rest of your life or for the rest of the dog's life is not a healthy thing. So during the time I figured out Ryan was allergic to Loki, I was still in the thought process of being a new parent and like, oh, you know, I'm doing fine in public. Like I don't need a service dog anymore. And so I was like, maybe this is just a sign again that, you know, from God that Arianna, you know, you're done. You're past this stage in your life. You don't need one. So we started looking to see if we could place Loki with someone else with PTSD. Now the issue with Loki is it's a very strange, I personally have never seen it. I don't think my mom has either. When it comes to service dog training at least, that Loki is perfect in public. He does really well public access wise. for being a Doberman puppy still. Puppy stage for Dobermans can definitely be a little bit longer, but he has been doing really well public access wise. But at home, he's a complete nut. I mean, he's very hyper, not like all the time, but he feeds off energy. So if there are little kids around that are playing, he gets super excited. He's not aggressive or anything like that. He just feeds off energy, but not when he's in public. So like if we're in a crowd with a ton of people, obviously that's a lot of energy, he would act perfectly fine. But if he is at home with his vest off and just playing, if there's a lot of activity going around, he gets super excited. So also having him in a home with kids wasn't ideal, not because he couldn't be nice to kids, he does fine with Revelynne and everything, but because there's an issue of worrying about him knocking over toddlers, or just the fact that you don't want a super hyper dog all the time. It made our ability to place him a lot more difficult. So then we were like, all right, well, I guess we'll just have to look at the option of just placing him just with a family so we can find him a home. Now, what we did not know about Loki is, you know, we did our background research about the breeders and everything seemed to look fine, but Loki has cyst issues. It takes work to keep his coat healthy and to keep the cysts at bay, and people just didn't want to deal with it. We had actually found Loki a home. He went and stayed at that home. They knew fully about his cyst issues and they were okay with it, but they sent a photo to their veterinarian and their vet was like, oh, well, that's gonna be an issue. Without even seeing him, just decided to say through a picture, which personally I would have gotten a new vet if my vet was giving me a diagnosis through photos. But they were like, well, we can't keep him then. So they sent him back. And so my mom just decided then, I'm just gonna keep Loki because I don't want him home hopping. It's not fair to him. I don't wanna worry about giving him to someone and then, you know, a couple months down the road, then being like, oh, this is too much work, I don't wanna do it. And so we're just gonna get rid of Loki and not like tell my mom that they were looking for a new home for him or whatever. So through all this though, I started going back into public without Revelynne in high trigger situations and with Revelynne in high trigger situations and became super comfortable parenting wise and realized that I was still having a lot of PTSD symptoms in high trigger situations. So my mom said, why don't we continue training Loki? Tim and I, my stepdad and her, will keep him and then I can just take him in high trigger situations. That is currently what the plan is. So Loki has still done really well. Yeah, you drink. Loki has still done really well at being responsive to me, even though he doesn't live with me. He's done really well, which is nice and actually not super common considering Dobermans are very one people. They choose one person to attach to and that's the person they attach to. And so the fact that he is still very responsive to me is great. He does really well, but he is definitely still a service dog in training. His public access is great. He's been doing well with that, but his task training has just begun. Like I said, Dobermans are very high energy dogs. Their puppy stage can be a little bit longer, so it can take a little bit to get them fully where they need to be before they have the ability to be like, all right, he's a service dog now. So that is really what is going on right now. Loki is not ever going to live with us because Ryan is allergic to him, but Loki will come with me on high trigger situations. Most of that is going to be with our leadership business because there are a lot of people usually at these meetings or when we go to our leadership conventions. He's mainly gonna be doing those because that's really the only high trigger situations that I go in anymore. So I think that's gonna be it for the update. Hopefully I answered all of your guys' questions. Oh, I do know that a few people asked about an update on Remington. Remington is the first service dog that we started training that ended up being washed out because she was too attention seeking. So Remington is doing well. She went with a friend of ours, which actually some of you guys may have seen her on Ellen. Her name is Kelly. She actually had a viral Facebook post about some boots and a homeless woman that she had helped in downtown. And so you may have possibly seen that post on Facebook or seen her on Ellen, but that is the family that Remington went to. So Remy had a few things go on when she got there. She did really well with her son, but then Remington actually got way too excited in the snow and ended up tearing, I think, her ACL. And so she had to have surgery. They did, of course, go through the surgery. They did not put her down or anything. She recovered well, but Kelly's son started having a lot of issues with asthma, and he has had asthma. And they found out finally that among a lot of things that he was allergic to, one of them was dogs, and that was why he was having so many asthma issues, and her son is very young. But thankfully, Kelly's husband's parents love Remy. So as soon as they had heard that Remy was an issue for their grandson, they were like, we'll take her, no problem. So Remy is currently with Kelly's in-laws, and she is super happy. As far as I know, everything's going great. And so she's staying like within their family still. She had a few issues here and there, got a little too excited in the snow, which I'm not surprised about, but she recovered well from surgery. And then of course they had the asthma issues with their son. She is still in a happy, loving home just like she was before, and she is doing really well as a family dog. So that is an update on Remy. I think that's going to be it for today's video, depending on how long this is, because I'm already at like 23 minutes, but I don't know how much like space I have to edit out. I have like a few clips from yesterday that I may or may not include after this. So I think that's going to be it for this update. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Question of the day wise, we will answer and ask tomorrow for you guys in a regular vlog. And so we will see you guys tomorrow as always. Bye.
Hello there, people of the internet. It is Thursday. No, it's Wednesday. Wow, that's unfortunate. It really is. I told Daisy to get in her crate because she hasn't pooped in like the last 3 times I took them out. And so she went into her crate, and Rev comes crawling in, and excuse all of the dirty clothes here. Rev's just been sitting here like trying to pet Daisy and then closing the gate, and then trying to pet her again and then closing it, and just doing this in a cycle. And I don't think Daisy likes it too much, but when I just like closed it, like actually closed it, Rev got upset. She enjoys playing with her. Oh, you all done? Say bye, Daisy. Say bye. Oh, are you saying bye? You're gonna let her out, aren't you? Yeah, Daisy. Rev, that's me. Rev. Okay, we're done. This girl is crazy. Oh, that was pretty funny though. You gotta admit, that was pretty funny. Right, Rev? Mwah. Oh, look who you let out. You're pretty happy about it, aren't you?
Say yay! Yay! Yay!
Whoa! You want more Kleenex?
No. What are you doing? Say Daddy. Daddy. Daddy? Your poor little hands.
Where'd she go? Gotta go find Daisy.
There.
Daisy, come. We went to Chipotle, got some food because we had free coupons, and then we went to my parents, and then we were there for a couple hours, and now we're home.
We're really bad vloggers today.
I did. You guys may have seen it, or you'll see it now, but there was just a short clip of Rev and Mom and Dad's playing with the Kleenex right before we left. So, hi, day. You're cute. It's bedtime, girl. Ooh, that looks warm and fuzzy. She's like, I see a book in there.
Oh, what is that?
She's like, what happened to my box?
Baby animals.
Ooh, look at that. Oh, are they fuzzy too?